So thank you guys. Good morning and welcome to CSL Charlotte. Now, we are a center for spiritual living Charlotte, but we are the mind, body, spirit center. And what we do is we actually do, you're going to watch and see what we do. Because today, our talk title is What the Psyche Knows. The psyche, you'll hear what that is, knows when the ego lets go. So now, next on our platform is Melissa Spiegler. So listen to Melissa telling you what you need to know about what the psyche knows when the ego lets go. So Melissa, make it do what it do.
All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Rosedale. Great I am. And this goes right in with this reading this morning. It is What the Psyche Knows. It is by Reverend Rosedale Jones. There is something within you that has never been confused, never been broken, and has never been lost. It doesn't argue. It doesn't perform. It doesn't try to prove itself. It simply knows. And before we reach for belief, before we try to understand or explain, we can begin right there with that quiet, steady knowing that has been present within us all along. From that place, we open ourselves to a discovery made at the beginning of life itself. It's not a belief or a doctrine, it's an observation. This observation was made by a man who spent his entire career studying the human psyche with scientific precision, Carl Jung. The final years of his life documented something extraordinary. Other words for psyche are soul, spirit, essence, inner being, and consciousness. As people approached death, their dreams changed. They were describing clarity. They spoke of feeling guided. They didn't speak of feeling lost or afraid. He found a pattern that repeated across cultures, across traditions, and across spiritual paths. That pattern suggested that psyche knows something that ego does not. He saw a pattern that suggested the end of life is not a breakdown. It was a reorientation toward a deeper self. This is a unique discovery. We let it speak to our own lives by presenting a scientist's final discovery about the psyche and then showing what it means for the living. Let it suffice to be open to the possibility that what emerges at the end of life is that which has been the truth of us all along. And here is a quote from Reverend Rosedale Jones to finish this. When the ego loosens, the psyche tells the truth. We don't end, we simply return. And so it is.
Nice. Can you just take that in? What I seek, I am. Remember? What I want to know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I want to be, I am. Take a nice deep breath with me and slowly release that breath out. Allow your mind to open and just let your spirit hear. Relax your eyes, either putting them down a little bit, but no distractions. When a thought comes through you, ease by it. Let it be ease on through. Because that I am is what this is in us as God. When we say God lives within us, that is what it is. Notice what you say behind I am for the rest of this week, because those words are how you feel, and how you feel changes your circumstances in any part of your life. So that God we talk about is the psyche. that I'm about to introduce, that they say it in the world of psychology, science, or metaphysics, or not metaphysics, quantum physics, because God is always and will always live in you. And that's why we bring together all the sciences, the philosophers, plus spirituality to actually understand who we are. So when I say I am, I'm not speaking from the ego, the one that says, who must I be right now? I know. The I am that I'm speaking from is that psyche, is my psyche, which is the God within me. That I am you heard about in the song is not a role you play. It's the real you. It's your essence. It's your psyche or that spirit within you. So this is a part of us. And there is always a part of you that already knows, and it's the presence within you. It's the psyche. So just take a breath, bring it with you. And nothing is missing in your life in this moment. Nothing is missing, nothing is wanted. Just wiggle your fingers and integrate that mind, body, and spirit. And prepare your mind, body, and spirit for what the psyche knows when the ego lets go. There is a moment that many of us have touched. Oh my God, so many moments. But we've touched them before. We just don't have a language behind it yet. We just don't know yet, but you're going to find the language in a minute. See, it's not this dramatic moment where these big lightning bolts are coming out. It's a quiet moment. It's that moment where there's something inside of you that becomes still and at ease. But the thing is, you just have to take time to sit with yourself and just sit 5 little minutes, just 5. Because in that stillness, what happens, you find out that, wow, there's nothing I have to fix right now. That's one way to just drop all the cares for a few minutes, just a minute. You're not trying to prove anything to anybody because it's just you and you, your psyche and you. You're not even trying to be anything in that moment. You just sit. And yet you feel more like yourself than you've ever done before. Try it a couple of times this week. Have you ever felt that even for a moment, I'm at peace? Maybe a second? I'm talking about that peace or that feeling of where your thinking starts to slow down. And something deep within you begins to say, wow, I'm feeling kind of good today or right now. Now, that feeling doesn't come from effort and trying real hard and trying to force anything. It actually comes from your self-awareness. That's what happens when we sit that 5 minutes. I'm becoming aware of who I am right now because, yeah, man, I was running over here. I was running over there. I went, now I'm sitting with myself and I'm aware of me. It's kind of scary for somebody to even think that way because they were trained that, well, you must take care of everyone else, not you. I laugh when I think of it because I was that way. See, this moment I'm talking about is not the ego trying to measure up to make sure everybody else understands me and likes me. I'm not trying to live up to someone else's standard because that's what the ego does when I'm sitting in that chair. I'm with the psyche. You see the difference? That moment is something deeper. It's quieted. It's more peaceful. And so that's when my feelings are true. And I tell you what, it's so true. It's more than anything that you've ever been taught, that truth. When you sit down with you and you feel that peace. So this is what my question is. What is that? That's why I study this so much and do all these researches, coming up with Carl Jung and Freudian and all of these different people that I study from to bring this to you. You know what? I said, what is that they're talking about? What is that when you're at peace that shows up when everything else is pushed to the side while you're just giving your psyche your attention? What is it that remains when the noise, all those thoughts, when you keep saying, oh, my mind, I can't meditate because I have this busy mind. Well, welcome to the club, because everybody has a busy mind. But the thing is, that thing that remains when the noise of that busy mind cuts away, you no longer ask him, who should I be? Because all that just fell away. Because there is a part of you that doesn't do all that performing, that it doesn't compete. It doesn't compare to the next thing or the next person. It just knows. It knows. And just like my AirPad yesterday, it knew. I kept going, being guided back down there, getting in the car, go back. I listened because I know that it's not trying to tell me nothing wrong. So we got to be trusting that, because we are here in these bodies to notice, to experience, even to remember, because there are things you forgot from birth that you were trained to do before birth, but then all of these things that you were taught and trained to do, stand still, do all of these things, you forgot. But let me tell you something. There is this man who was deeply powerful in this. He was very curious about all of those questions that I keep raising, but he put it out there for me to learn it. And he died somewhere in the 40s, 1940s. But you know what? He got his answers to what pure observation does for us. But he put it out there to us. But you know, if you want to hide something from everybody, the book. Because all we got to do is look and see if we really want to know, what am I sitting for? Why am I doing this? Come to class, sit down and do some of this thinking about it. Come and do some studying for it. Because he studied the human experience at its deepest levels. And all he did was observe his clients, and especially the ones who were dying. He really did, because that is powerful to be there, to let us know that that's still among the living, that there is something to really be here about. Maybe you heard his name. He's one of the biggest psychologists to me that ever lived this earth. His name is Carl Jung. He died in 1940 something. But you know what? That's not important. He doesn't want us to even talk about all that about him. He just wants us to know what he did so we can be understanding who we are. So he observed his own dying and his other people that he, all his clients and stuff, and who was dying. He did that just for us to learn. He did it to teach us. So he spent his life exploring the psyche. Oh, the psyche is every bit of you. The psyche, he did it by observing his clients, asking them questions. So what do you feel now? See, when I talk to people, I really want the truth. And if they're not giving me the truth, this one here ain't, I don't want to talk to you. Because you got to be honest. Nobody's going to be upset. But what he did was he got the truth from them in their transition process, meaning that they were dying over their month or so, and they would really want to be a part of his experiment, and they did great by me, because I'm reading all those case studies and I'm digging it. And you know what? That all brought me to this question. Well, it wasn't a question, but I wanted to know, what does the psyche know when the ego lets go? Because that's what I want you to know. It's not what you think. It's not about what you think. It's really goes beneath who we think we are or what we think we are. This thing goes beyond all of that. So over the years, he died at 85. So you know he did some good time for us. He discovered something that changed everything for him. And this is not a religion. He made sure in that book that I just bought recently, I got so many books on different guys. I got Freud, I got Matlov, I got them all. But you know what? I'm on Psyche. I'm on Carl Jung today. But it's not about religion. It's about the realization of consciousness. Consciousness goes throughout your entire body, mind, body, and spirit. And he's someone who has seen something directly. And that's what the major part of that book told me when I started opening it up. So I said, he's someone who has seen something directly. And my question was, what did he see? Right? Because I'm all curious. So I did the research. I wanted to know what he observed about the psyche that moved him from just believing in the psyche to knowing. That's a powerful thing because the psyche knows everything. So before Carl Jung died, he left us a bunch of messages, a plethora of messages. He didn't leave a bunch of sermons. He didn't leave a bunch of theories. He left a discovery that was phenomenal. And he said, maybe you're asking this question. He said, what is the psyche? Mm-hmm. So he spent his life studying it. So let me unpack it right now. So you hear the word essence, that means God. You hear the word spirit, that means God. It's so many words for the name of God that you don't have to be all restricted of anything. So the psyche, it's your essence. It's the presence. The presence is a word for God within you. Many people call all of that God, and they have to get to choose what name they want to call this psyche. So the psyche is your consciousness. Another word for God. You get it? All right. So when Jung said psyche, he was just talking about those thoughts that come through you too. He was talking about the total you, not just your thoughts. He was talking about them too. He was talking about that part that thinks. Did you know we have a part that thinks? He was talking about the part that breathes. Right? Because that's that spirit in you that takes your breath. He was talking about the part that feels. Feeling gets the healing. That's why we say that. He was talking about the part that reacts. He was talking about the part that quietly knows. Like I knew every time I do things like that, I knew I was going to find that AirPod yesterday, and I wasn't going to spend an extra $69 to get another one. And I wasn't going to go through life without it. Because I just kept sitting. And then I just said, get up and go. Now, the thing is, when you're sitting, you got to go listen to yourself, tell you what to do. You just don't sit there and say, yeah, I know, okay. And good. Where does your answers come from, right? Now, here's something to think about. There's a difference between the ego and the self when you're sitting there with the self. You're listening to you, but you got to know the difference between the ego. Now, the ego rattles your nervous system. That's a good way to know it. Good, bad, or indifference. But the ego is good. It's not bad. And just to be clear about the ego is necessary because it helps you navigate this world. It helps you protect your identity and build your story so you can function in this society with all these people talking about, oh, we're going to die. You know, I remember every little phase that we go through in life that they put in the news and the media and everybody's getting all like tethered over it. Wait a minute. Your ego is being sucked into all of that. Hold back, grit your identity back and say, wait a minute, I hear you. But this is the physical society that you have to be a part of too. So don't get all crazy over it. Then come back to the self. Sit with yourself. So here's the problem. We have all trained ourselves to live from the ego because people love to impress each other, right? They live from the ego. They ignore the self. which is also the psyche, right? So we wake up one morning thinking, what are people thinking about me? What are people thinking about me? How do I look? Is my behavior acceptable? And that's the ego. Let me just let everybody know who I am and what I do. That's the ego. That's okay. But remember, you don't have to try to impress everybody because that's the ego. In other words, we have overtrained the ego and we have overtrained ourselves to follow the ego instead of the self. Yeah, we did. And because we did that for so many years, we kind of lose the connection with the psyche. And the psyche doesn't ask for approval from anybody out there, from nobody. The psyche says, I got you, and you better trust it. All you have to do is sit with yourself, and you will do things that you thought were amazing. So, what is the self that Jung keeps teaching us about? It's the psyche. Jung called the self a capital S. With a capital S. He always spelled the self. You knew that's Jung talking. When you start studying this and researching, that's the Jung. That's coming from Jungian. That's Jungian philosophy, if you will. It's not your personality. The self is not your personality. It's not the mask you wear for everyone. It's not the role that you play. No, that's not the self. The self is a part of you, that whole part of you, the wholeness, the health part of you, the well part of you, that you need to sit and tune into that. It's the part of you that's not performing for everybody else in the physical society, even though you have to live in it. Yes, we all live in it. But you have to return. That word I keep saying, you heard in the reading, you return to the self by sitting with yourself. That part of you is not trying to be liked. That part of you doesn't even ask, am I enough or am I good enough? It does not ask that because you don't need to know that. You know it because what did I say? The psyche knows you're good enough. Trust it. Because my psyche already knows I am that I am. And you've heard that before. And that means that's that name that God gave Moses to go tell in Egypt to say, oh yeah, he said, who sent you? He said, I am that I am. Let my people go. Well, anyway, I'm not going through all that, but I'm just saying, I am that I am is I am. You heard the song. She's all of that and I am. Wow. So before I even had language on all of this stuff, when things were not the best for me yet in the 90s, I had an experience that, I had several of them, but I had no name for it, no language. But anyway, had something happen that stays with me. Certain things are just never going to leave. So I was driving in New York with my youngest daughter and my grandson. At the time, they were both in car seats. They're 30s now, but they're aunt and uncle, but it's just the cutest thing to me. So anyway, long story short, I'm regressing. So anyway, they were in the back seat back there in their car seat, and I'm driving. But at the time, I was listening to some of I was a big buff for self-improvement. I was listening to these cassette plays in my recorder, in my car, and just driving. And so that calms me and keep me calm. But anyway, as I'm driving, all of a sudden, a car hit the tail end of my car coming through an intersection, smacked, and we went spinning around like that, like crazy. And I wanted to panic at first, but I didn't. I heard something clear as day say, let go. I let that wheel go and I put down my head and let that car spin. But you want to know something that's really incredible about that event? I didn't fight. I didn't react. I didn't even have fear. I forgot the car was even spinning. I didn't even know who was around. It was so quiet inside of me. Whoa, what a presence. That was the self, but I didn't know that. But anyway, for a few seconds after the car finally stopped, it was quiet. Then I became self-aware, and then I heard all the noise and all the people running over to the car. We were completely unharmed, and it was about maybe 10 cars all the way up the street on both sides of the street, and we did all of that. Didn't hit one car, one pedestrian, nothing, because I didn't have the ego go, wait a minute, I can fix this. No, it said, let go. And everything, I couldn't understand the presence, but I went and told my mom. But I know, now I know, it wasn't, no, wasn't something for me to say, well, listen, I got this. No, 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 that's the ego. What kept me calm was the self. That's what it was. It was the self. Later, after not that long, because I've been studying everything anyway before that, but I studied Carl Jung in more depth when I got back into school to get my master's. But I got a language for what I had already been living to explain to me, wow, that's the beauty of life. Once you know what's going on with you, you begin to understand that you have a presence in this world. This is why it's so important to study yourself, to sit with yourself, to even understand what's happening with me, what's happening in my life. Why is it doing this? People doing what they do, because this way you can find out, who am I today, so I can circumvent all this crap and stop living like that. For me, all of this that I learned today come from the moments of me sitting with myself, sitting with the self. So that's where my peace comes from. That's why people go, well, you are so happy all the time. I said, if you just come on and follow this, you'll be happy too. But I don't say that. I just go, I know. Because I am. That's why I'm so happy in my life. See, back then, I felt things and I experienced things, and I just didn't have the language, but what I was experiencing 100%, but I was assuming a lot. But then I came across Carl Jung's work, and I did Maslow. He was okay, but it didn't hit it yet until I got to the archetypes that Carl Jung is talking about all the time. He describes something. He describes so many things that I was already experiencing. And if you start studying that stuff, you say, oh, that's what I was dealing with. That's what changed everything for me. Actually studying this stuff, researching this stuff, doing what's going on, wanting to know how my mind ticks. See, these different explorers, there have been many of them, and they pointed to certain parts of the human experience. Freud, he taught about the unconscious mind, okay, for example. And then Maslow, he talked about a little potential. Remember the hierarchy? He talked about potential. And then Frankl, he talked about meaning of life, a meaning of stuff, just meaning. Frankl was good about that. Oh yeah, I can smell another class coming. Quantum physicists, you know what? They showed us more. Now, quantum physics really came up a long way through the ranks, because a lot of people were kind of ignoring it, but you can't ignore the quantum, but that's a whole nother story. I'm not going there. But Carl Jung, he brought us into the deeper psyche, into the deeper self of us. So he introduced not only the psyche, but he introduced the archetypes. And you know what archetypes are the patterns within the human, within all of us. We all got these patterns. And once we learn them, we're at liberty to change. I don't like that about me, so let me just do what I need to do to fix this so that I can attract people. I say it all the time. I attract this lady who jumped up and said, hey, what are you doing? Let me see. It just happens like that. I'm not surprised. But all of those people I named, Maslow and all of them are always pointing to something deeper than behavior, deeper than personality and even beyond our personality. This is something that's so intelligent that's inside of us that we got to know. It's the psyche, and the psyche knows. So Carl Jung, he wrote the observing experience permanently. All the things he observed, he wrote them down. And he said that it permanently changed his understanding of the psyche, because he also talked about his death as he did his transition. And that's another beautiful autobiography. Oh my God. So Jung expected that when you're dying, you're breaking down. Oh, but he learned something altogether different than that. Oh my God. It's incredible. He came back to let us know. I mean, he didn't go anywhere, but he let us know that we have it. So use it now. Why do you have to wait to die to start going, oh, I wish I had done all these things? No, the psyche is not a random event. The psyche is doing something intentional in us today. That's why we do the things we do and talk to the people we talk to, because we're attracted to each other. Don't ignore each other. Here's the shift. The psyche is always preparing for the return. You know the return. The return is this. Anytime you take 5 minutes out of your day to sit down, you're returning. And the returning means you're just moving away from the identity of that ego. The one that says, I'm a police officer, or I got my bachelor's in science and this, and we've got to turn away from that for a moment. 5 minutes. Yeah, I know you got a great job. And yeah, I know you make 6 figures, but wait a minute. Sit with the self so you can be aligned with the self. And that means sitting with yourself long enough for the return to the psyche, so you can leave the ego aside for a couple of minutes. You don't want to leave it forever, because you don't want to do that. So taking time to sit with you is radical. And I can't tell you how many times I've experienced the psyche and how I continue to experience it. Just yesterday is one example. So Carl Jung shows us that the psyche is far more intelligent than the ego. So I challenge you this week as I close out, just a challenge. Sit with yourself and notice your thoughts. And make sure that you're doing it so you don't let your thoughts distract you, but just know what's in there around you. Just know the thoughts that keep coming. I hear things like, oh my goodness, I might have a car accident, or listen to that and go, wow, that's interesting. But that's not you. Don't make it you. Stop letting the ego run the show. The ego worries about money. The psyche knows how to create money. The psyche knows, trust me. The ego fears sickness and it worries about death, but the psyche knows how to regulate the body. Trust it, right? I keep saying trust the psyche, because it's true. The ego thinks happiness depends on having relationships. No, the psyche knows happiness is an inside job. When you sit with you, that's not the ego. That's the self. That's the integration of your mind, body, and spirit. So don't wait to meet the self at the end of your life. There's no such thing as I'm going to, what we used to think, oh, the word they used to tell us, repent. Well, you can do that every day. You don't have to wait to die. Meet the self now. Sit with the self and let the noise inside of you, all those thoughts, let it settle. Because you got to work that mind's going to work 24/7. So stop worrying about how, and I can't believe I said that. So what? Your spirit knows you are light, beautiful light. Your consciousness knows you are light. And your psyche knows you are the light. So let this next song bring you into a nice, peaceful stir into your mind, and let it remind you that you're not the roles you're playing. You're not the opinions you created. You are definitely not the opinions of what other people have about you. You're not. You are the light. And that light has been here all before every bit of those thoughts you can ever come up with. So the psyche knows. and the light knows. But just remember this, it's not about you just donating. When you give to a center like this, you are doing the world a favor. You are making an investment in consciousness, what we talked about, for others or yourself to even get deeper into this. You're not just making a donation, you're investing in your consciousness that way that it will change your world. So you're investing in also what we talked about, what the psyche knows when the ego lets go. Let that be something. Because see, me, I don't speak and I don't live from a textbook. I live from my life. I'm a true testament of everything that I talk about and everything I've learned. And I am proof when the psyche knows, the ego lets go. I'm did big time on that. So your investments do strengthen that. But when you soften your guard against your resources and you circulate your finances around like that, you have the same flow in your life. You align with your giving, you align this flow, and then guess what? Your position in life, you change yourself, you heal, you prosper right along with it. So as you give, just ask yourself this, am I ready to support a place where people don't just learn about what the psyche knows, the ego lets go, but they transform and change by it? The whole result that you see is what you want to get. Not just knowing this stuff, you want to apply it to your life. So thank you for strengthening when the psyche knows, the ego lets go through your giving. And thank you for hearing the truth about what the psyche knows, the ego lets go. So as we close out and wrap up our time together today, about what the psyche knows, the ego lets go. Because when the ego lets go, you can listen and you can talk and you can accept the change and be willing to be yourself. Sit with yourself. Be willing to know who you are. Because the more consistently you sit, the easier it is for you to hear and compose anything you want with you and your psyche. And let that ego go for a little while, because it's still going to be back. Just let it go while you're dealing with the psyche. Until we meet again, change and decide what the psyche knows, the ego lets go, and watch it and see what you're becoming. And so it is.